Uncle Ron stuff. Today I'm going to attempt to put a new USB connector on an existing device where I think the USB connector, some of the wires are broken. And what I have, why even go through this? I have an old Logitech marble mouse right here that I like a lot, but it's gotten wonky when I try to use it. So I thought it was worth an attempt, and what you see here is I got plenty of these around. I mean, lots of old printer cables. I got a new looking USB end here. Now I need to attach it to the old mouse ball, and you can sort of see it here. What I've done is obviously strip back the insulation, and you can see there's this guy is the ground wire, and that basically is connecting this outer metal shield. That's what that ground wire is about. And then I have 4 other wires, and there's a green, a white, a red, and a black. They do match up. Cutting off the cord on something else and moving the USB over to my Logitech camera, they kept the same color scheme. Okay. So what I've done is I've peeled back the insulation on both ends of the wires, the one coming from the new USB connector and the one coming from the trackball, and I have spliced them together. But what I did do, and you'll see right here, I put on a piece of, this is heat shrink tubing, this black stuff right here. So I've twisted the wires together, and like here's the red connection, and here's the white connection, and here's the green connection. And I'll clean them up a little bit, but then I'm just going to take the slightest amount of solder to them and make sure they're solid. And then I'll be sliding this heat shrink tubing up over that junction, and then taking a cigarette lighter to it to get the heat shrink to shrink down on the 2 wires so I don't have any contact between wires. Now I normally stagger connections so that even though I'm going to heat shrink them, I stagger connections so if a wire pokes through the heat shrink, it isn't going to short to something else. Now I don't really have a lot of extra room on both cables here, and the wires on the Logitech camera are really small and thin. I can't get it to focus correctly. They're really small and thin, whereas whatever device I cut this off of, the wires are pretty good. They're pretty good gauge. So I've twisted them together, but I just didn't have a lot of room to take care of trying to stagger my connections, like one connection here and one connection here, and then the red one way over here and the black way over here, and then finally the round wire way back somewhere else. I didn't really have the room for that, and I'm not sure it's going to work anyway. There is a logic board or 2 inside of this device. That may be the real problem, and this is off or not, but I thought I would give it a try. And everybody's got these around. I don't know if everybody's got soldering irons or heat shrink tubing, but it's not a major deal, and I will say that I'm more function over form. That is, I don't care much about cosmetics, so once I solder these and get the heat shrink tubing up over it, then we'll see if it works, and if it does, then I'll wrap something around it or do something with it, and won't be particularly cosmetic, but it'll work. So that's end of section 1. I'm going to set up my soldering iron. Okay, I've got them soldered, but I made a mistake I've done before. I used too small of heat shrink tubing, so the solder connection, it doesn't want to go over top of that. And I also made the tubing too long. This is heat shrink tubing. This is the smallest I have. This is the next largest size. And where I use the largest size, it worked fine. And that's the green one here. Right here, you see it's properly over the total solder junction and heat shrunk down. And I have, nope, I didn't get any others to, I used the wrong size. I think the red's okay here. I got the right over the junction anyway. But all is not lost because I use liquid electrical tape. And what I'm going to do now is dose all these connections with good electrical tape. You know what I might try at this point to see if it fixed my problem. Since I have what I think is good connections, I'll see if this takes care of it before it goes any farther. And again, what I'm trying to do is to get this Logitech mouse ball to go. And I think the problem was the USB connector right here. That's where one or more of the wires had frayed, jointed, whatever. And the wires coming out of the Logitech, those you can't see them, but this white wire here is really, really thin. Is really, really thin. These guys. The ones that come off of the new connector I put on are much heavier wires, and they solder real well. But these little teeny guys off the Logitech, it does support my theory that one or more of those broken, shorted, or otherwise. So I may try this to see if it works before I go any farther. And if it does work, then I'll use my liquid electrical tape to coat all these junctions real well so that it can't possibly short. And then I'll later probably wrap it with electrical tape or some other uncosmetic way of making it rigid. That's where I am at this point. This is part 2. So I tried my spliced on USB cable, and didn't help the problem. Here it is here to my mouse ball. The computer did not report that it was causing an error. I just didn't see it at all. So I think these were soldered pretty well. I really do. And I know that they're properly color coded, or should be. I mean, if they follow the same color code, then. So there's something dead inside this guy. I had it apart last night looking at it. I could have made it worse, but I cleaned up what I could. So anyway, it didn't solve my problem, but this will give you an example of what you could do to put another USB connector on a cable where this portion has got a broken wire or whatever, or inside here these pins have gotten distorted, broken, corroded, whatever. That's how you might want to do it. It's not a big deal. Again, I made a mistake on using too small of a heat shrink tubing. Heat shrink tubing, if you don't know, you can buy a big box of this. Let me get it up. Here it is. This one I think was some base hardware. But you can get this stuff, and it comes in various sizes. It's real handy. Various sizes and colors. and one box will last you a long time. It's real handy to put over soldered connections, and then you just simply use a cigarette lighter to shrink the tube around whatever. And probably has other uses besides soldering connections. You may be able to use it to repair something else. The mistakes I have made, and I repeat it here again, I used too small a tubing. After I solder, then the solder is, some of it sticks up enough that if the tubing won't go over it. And the other mistakes I tend to make with this stuff is I try to use more of the tubing than I really should. And then, even though I try to keep the soldering iron away from the tubing, it gets enough heat that it starts shrinking right near where the connection is, and then you have trouble pushing that tubing up on the solder connection. I was successful in a couple of them. Here, the white one and the green one, the white one and the green one are done properly. I don't know if you can see that, but the white one and the green one. You see how the green, that's the right way to do it. Anyway, that's how you would do it. Unfortunately, it did not solve my problem. And so, and I'm sure the solder connections are solid. And so I'm going to cut this head off, and I'll keep the rest of this guy for parts, if nothing else. I hate throwing stuff away. I might even cut the cable off of it. I don't even know. It could be broken up at this end. One of those small wires might have been broken. There is a sharp curve in here, and perhaps it fell off the table and got hung in some weird way. This one has really thin wires in it. And they're liable to break, and that's too bad. The other thing you can do is a side issue if you're having trouble with this. You can get something down in there to clean those contacts. I'm old enough to remember that people had video games where they had to clean the cartridge contacts and plug it in. Otherwise, it would get grody sometimes. These look fine, but you can get some kind of a cleaning pad down in there and clean them perhaps. And make sure that's not your problem at this end right there. Anyway, this showed what I tried to do. Didn't work. Had it worked, I would have coated it with what's called electric tape. You can buy at all the major Home Depot retailers, and you thoroughly coat this real well. Okay, that's it for this one. Uncle Ron's stuff today is the 4th of March. I hope maybe somebody, I don't know,